Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. We try to pack it with surprising facts, maybe just enough humor to keep you hooked.
Hopefully.
Today, we are diving really headfirst into something that sounds straight out of a blockbuster movie, but it's increasingly our tangible reality.
It really is. It's moving fast.
Imagine this with me for a second. There's a woman, let's call her Maya. She lost her hand. But instead of, a static prosthetic, surgeons anchored the sleek titanium rod right into her forearm bone.
So integration.
Exactly. And a new hand clicks in. And for the first time in ages, she can actually feel the pressure when she squeezes something, like a cup.
A profound return of sensation.
Absolutely. It's that connection back to the world. Or picture her friend. He has this small antenna implanted behind his ear.
Neil Harbisson, perhaps, or someone like him.
Could be. And it translates colors into tones, into sounds. So he's composing music from ultraviolet light, perceiving things we can't even imagine.
Expanding sensory reality.
And then, maybe you've read about this, there's that clinical trial participant. Quietly, just thinking and moving a cursor on a screen, purely with their mind.
Brain-computer interfaces, yeah.
Yeah.
BCIs.
These aren't future fantasies anymore, are they? They're snapshots of how technology is quite literally bleeding into human flesh, into our identity right now.
It's happening. The lines are blurring.
So today, our mission, our deep dive, is to really unpack the past, present, and future of what it means to be a cyborg.
A loaded term sometimes.
It is. We'll explore the history, which is maybe more surprising than you think. The psychological shifts, the culture around it, all the controversies swirling.
It's a complex mix.
Consider this your essential guide. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding this field because it's not just evolving rapidly, it's fundamentally reshaping what it means to be human.
Absolutely. Big questions involved.
Get ready for some aha moments, maybe challenge some assumptions, because this journey, well, it might just shift how you think about yourself.
Yeah, it often does.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Where did the idea of merging humans and machines even begin? I mean, it can't have started with silicon chips and titanium.
No, not at all. And what's genuinely fascinating here, I think, is that the human imagination has been playing with this for millennia. We've been thinking about artificial life, enhanced bodies for so long.
Really?
Millennia.
Oh, yeah. The real insight, maybe, is that our minds have been priming themselves for cyborgs long before the tech could even exist. These myths, these stories, they weren't just entertainment. They were like our species' first mental blueprints for merging with the non-biological.
Huh. Mental blueprints. I like that. So what are we talking about way back when?
Well, if you look way back, pre-18th century, you find these incredibly rich cultural precursors. Think ancient Greece, right? They're intricate automata, mechanical birds said to fly, statues crafted by mythic figures like Hephaestus, the god of smithing.
The original exactly. Statues that were supposed to move on their own. Then you move into medieval times and you get these incredibly sophisticated mechanical clocks. Automata, like the famous mechanical monk.
I think I've seen pictures of that. Creepy, but amazing.
Right. And these things started to sort of subtly instill in societies the idea that non-organic agency, something moving that wasn't alive in the biological sense, could exist within or be attached to something lifelike.
So it normalized the idea a bit.
I think so. Even alchemical traditions explored animating statues, trying to imbue inanimate stuff with life. These stories, these early mechanical wonders, they were significant, not just whimsical tales. They really laid a conceptual groundwork, slowly preparing us, culturally, to accept integrating the artificial with the natural. It made the impossible thinkable.
Okay, so these myths were more than just stories. They were like, as you said, thought experiments, subtly getting us ready for a future we couldn't build yet. But how did we jump from, mythical moving statues to something more practical?
Right. That shift happens as we move into the 18th and 19th centuries.
Yeah.
The focus changes dramatically. It goes from myth to, very practical, often urgent, necessity.
Necessity like
survival.
Yeah.
This era saw the rise of what we might call early mechanical bodies, basically, rudimentary prostheses. These weren't about grand enhancements like we imagine now. It was about survival, about social reintegration.
So for injuries, war.
Precisely. Think about veterans from conflicts like the Napoleonic Wars, or workers injured in those early dangerous factories. Functional metal and leather hands, hooks, they became critical tools.
Crude, I imagine.
Very crude by today's standards, often uncomfortable, cumbersome. But they restored basic function, allowed people to grasp, carry, feed themselves, maybe work again, participate in society. It was a tangible, if often painful, step towards merging body and tech driven by real need.
Wow, that's a huge leap, isn't it? From animated statues to a functional hook hand for a soldier. And then the 20th century. That's when things really accelerate conceptually, when the idea of the cyborg crystallizes.
Absolutely. That's when the intellectual framework really solidifies. Mid-20th century brings us cybernetics, a truly revolutionary field pioneered by Norbert Wiener.
Wiener, right. Cybernetics. What was the big idea there?
His work basically reframed how we thought about both organisms and machines. He saw them not as totally separate things, but as interconnected feedback systems.
Feedback systems, like a thermostat.
Exactly like a thermostat. It senses the environment, processes info, acts to maintain a state, creating a loop. Wiener applied this kind of systems thinking to biology and engineering. It fundamentally blurred the lines.
So it wasn't just about control systems for rockets or whatever.
Much bigger. It was like the intellectual earthquake that showed humans and machines weren't maybe fundamentally different in how they process information, how they self-regulate. It gave us the scientific sort of permission to imagine plugging into ourselves, not just building separate robots.
Oh, okay, that's a huge conceptual leap. And then there's Donna Haraway, right? The Cyborg Manifesto.
Ah, yes. 1985, a total game changer, not just for tech theory, but for philosophy, politics, feminism.
How so? What did she do with the cyborg idea?
Haraway didn't just describe integration. Her manifesto utterly redefined what a cyborg could mean. She turned it into this powerful symbol, a tool for liberation.
Liberation from what?
From rigid, traditional identity categories, gender, race, class, even what counts as human. She argued the cyborg, this hybrid figure, offered a way to imagine new subjectivities, new ways of being. It was a path for breaking free from societal constraints, forging new possibilities for selfhood, for political action beyond those old binaries.
Wow, so the cyborg became political, philosophical.
Absolutely. That was a real mic drop moment in theory. The cyborg wasn't just tech, it was an ideal.
That is powerful, taking an engineering concept and turning it into cultural critique, a tool for liberation. Okay, so we have cybernetics providing the mechanism, Haraway providing the political meaning. Then we get to the late 20th, early 21st century. That's when we start seeing real-life cyborgs hitting the headlines.
Indeed. This is when the conceptual really becomes undeniably concrete. You get figures like Kevin Warwick, the British professor, became iconic, sometimes controversial, with his self-experiments.
Right, he implanted things in himself.
He did. Late 90s, early 2000s. First, an RFID chip in his arm in 98. Used it to open doors, control lights in his lab. Basic stuff, but provocative.
Just the start, though.
Exactly. Then in 2002, he went much further. Implanted neural electrodes directly into his median nerve in his arm.
Directly into the nerve, wow.
Yeah, and this allowed him to remotely control devices, like a robotic hand. He even created this rudimentary form of networked interaction, his nervous system connected to a machine. Famously, he even connected his nervous system electronically to his wife's via implants.
He did what now? Connected to his wife?
Through implants, yes. A basic form of electronic communication or shared sensation. Warwick wasn't just doing science, he was asking profound questions like, what if you could plug into your house? What if you could feel what your partner feels electronically? It challenged our deepest ideas of self, of I.
That must have hit a nerve, pardon the pun.
It absolutely did. His work was incredibly provocative, sparked huge public interest, and definitely pushed the definition of cyborg.
And then there are artists, like Neil Harbisson, doing something different but equally boundary pushing.
Yes, following a different path but equally compelling. Neil Harbisson. He was born with achromatopsia, total color blindness. So in the early 2000s, he had this sensory antenna implanted into his skull.
An antenna sticking out.
Yeah, extends over his head.
Yeah.
And it translates colors, including infrared and ultraviolet, colors we can't see, into audible tones that he perceives through bone conduction in his skull.
So he hears colors.
In a way, yes. It blurs the lines between art, identity, biology. He doesn't just hear colors as data. He perceives them as an integrated part of his extended senses. He argues for trans-species rights, advocating for identities beyond human norms.
Trans-species rights.
Yes. And he even managed to get legal recognition for his antenna as part of his body on his passport photo, which forced bureaucratic systems to actually confront this new reality.
That's incredible. So he's not just augmenting, he's actively trying to redefine his species category.
Exactly. It's a powerful statement.
Those are definitely striking examples, pushing the limits. But you also hinted earlier that maybe many common devices already fit this cyborg definition, that we might already be cyborgs without realizing it.
It's a really crucial point, and it often gets lost in the, flashy headlines about brain chips. Many devices integrated into bodies for decades already fit the core definition. A bodily technology hybrid.
Like what? What are we overlooking?
Well, pacemakers, for starters. Millions of people rely on them to regulate their heartbeats. Cochlear implants, restoring hearing for the deaf. Even something as seemingly simple and ubiquitous as eyeglasses.
Eyeglasses.
Think about it. They augment and correct our vision, integrating technology directly into our sensory experience to enhance function. These things have been quietly integrating us with machines for a very long time.
Huh. So if you wear glasses or know someone with a pacemaker, you're interacting with cyborg tech daily. That's maybe the ultimate surprising fact here.
Pretty much. The rhetorical jump to calling someone a cyborg often reflects more our cultural shock or fascination with the new, rather than a strict technical threshold that's been crossed. These quiet technologies have been making us hybrids for generations. We've just normalized them.
That really reframes it, a hidden history of augmentation all around us. And speaking of quiet revolutions, you mentioned osseointegration earlier. Bit of a mouthful, but you said it was significant.
It really is. And it's a technical revolution that's arguably had a more widespread, profoundly positive impact on daily life for many than some of the more dramatic headlines suggest. Osseointegration. It means direct skeletal attachment of prostheses.
So instead of a socket.
Exactly. Instead of a traditional socket fitting over the residual limb, which can cause discomfort, skin issues, limited movement, a titanium implant is surgically anchored right into the bone.
Into the bone itself.
Yes. And the prosthesis then clicks or connects seamlessly onto that implant sticking out slightly. Now, the basic idea isn't brand new. It's been around. But the surgical techniques, the materials, the clinical protocols, they've matured significantly recently. It's become a much more reliable, effective option for many amputees.
And the benefit?
Dramatically transformed mobility. Greater stability, much improved control because the connection is so direct, and often fewer skin problems or discomfort. It feels more natural, more integrated. It's less flashy than a brain chip, maybe, but it is profoundly improving quality of life for countless people. A cornerstone of modern medical cyborg integration, quietly changing lives.
Okay, so we've traced this incredible journey. Myths, hooks, cybernetics, implants, even eyeglasses. But what happens inside? On a deeper level, you said these techs change how we feel about ourselves, how we interact. Let's dig into that.
Right, and this is where it gets really complex and deeply, deeply human. The experience of augmentation. It's incredibly multifaceted. It touches on profound psychological, even sociological impacts.
Starting with the individual.
Yes. On an individual level, getting an augmentation can fundamentally rewrite your sense of body boundaries. Where does me end and the tech begin? For many people, there's this distinct process of embodiment.
Embodiment. Meaning.
Meaning, initially, the device might feel like an external tool, something attached to you. But over time, especially with advanced prosthetics or sensory implants, it can shift. It starts being experienced as an integrated part of the self, like it's always been there, a natural extension.
That must feel liberating. Or strange.
Both. It can be incredibly liberating. Imagine losing a limb and regaining agency, mobility, or a lost sense like touch. It's life-changing, restores wholeness, autonomy. But it can also be disorienting.
How so?
Alien sensations, maybe. New inputs the brain struggles to interpret at first, sometimes even a form of grief for the pre-augmentation body for the old self. The psychological adaptation is a massive journey. It requires immense resilience.
I can only imagine. It's not just hardware, it's rewiring your relationship with your body, your perception. What about the cognitive side, the emotional effects of these new inputs?
Well, there are significant learning curves, adaptation challenges, especially with complex BCIs or sensory extensions. You have to actively learn how to operate these things, how to make sense of the new information.
Does the brain help?
Often, yes. Neuroplasticity is key. Our brains are remarkably adaptable. They can rewire themselves to incorporate new sensory info or motor controls. But it's not always smooth sailing.
What kind of challenges?
Fatigue, certainly. Frustration when it doesn't work as expected. Even phantom sensations as the brain adjusts. Someone with a new visual implant might initially see just flashes or patterns, needing extensive training for their brain to learn to interpret those signals as meaningful images.
And then there's how other people react. You mentioned stigma versus pride.
Exactly. It's not a uniform experience at all.
Yeah.
Some people embrace visible augmentations. They become powerful markers of identity. You see cyborg pride movements, subcultures where the tech is a statement, empowerment, belonging.
Like Neil Harbisson's antenna.
Precisely. But others, they experience significant stigma. Anxiety about being seen as other, as different, maybe even monstrous in some people's eyes. Or they just have a strong desire for the augmentation to be discreet, to blend in, not draw unwanted attention. These reactions really highlight the deeply personal and cultural dimensions of integrating tech with self.
That leads us right into the broader societal implications, doesn't it? Individual experience is one thing, but zoom out. How does this tech start reshaping society?
Indeed. And this raises huge questions about fairness, equity, how society itself might get reconfigured. Augmentations could absolutely exacerbate socioeconomic divides.
How? Between who?
Well, think about therapeutic users, amputees getting mobility, deaf individuals getting cochlear implants. That's restoring function, access, dignity. But then you have elective enhancements.
Enhancements just because you want them.
Right. Cognitive improvements, better senses, maybe even purely cosmetic augmentations. If these are expensive, and they likely will be initially and unequally distributed, well, you could create stratified abilities. New social hierarchies based on who can afford to be better.
A biological or technological class system.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Making the rich-poor gap even wider, but based on inherent capabilities. And this flows right into work and labor.
Employers valuing augmented workers more.
It's a real possibility. Increased productivity, enhanced safety in some jobs. Employers might start valuing augmented bodies, which sparks an ethical minefield. Implicit coercion.
Pressure to augment just to keep your job.
Or to compete. And what about discrimination against the non-augmented if they're seen as less capable? It's a slippery slope towards maybe a two-tiered workforce, a two-tiered society based on augmentation status.
And that could change our basic social norms.
Dramatically. What counts as normal human function could shift. Our laws, insurance policies, disability frameworks, they're all built on current understandings of human ability. They'll be massively challenged. How do you define disability when enhancements exist? What are human rights when bodies are technologically mediated? It's a fundamental challenge to our social constructs.
Wow, that is a lot to grapple with. Given these really complex personal and societal reactions, are there existing psychological theories that help us make sense of this? How we adapt to becoming more machine-like?
Yes, thankfully we have some frameworks. Embodiment theory is very relevant here. It helps explain how external tools can become integrated into our body schema, the brain's internal map of our body.
Like how a tennis player feels the racket as part of their arm.
Exactly. Or a driver feels the edges of their car. This theory explains how a prosthetic limb, over time, can stop feeling like a separate object and genuinely become part of your perceived body, mentally and experientially.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Then there's social identity theory. This clarifies the in-group, out-group dynamics. Why some people form cyborg pride communities, finding solidarity, and why others might face stigma or feel othered. We categorize ourselves and others, and visible tech can really amplify those perceptions of similarity or difference.
Creating new social groups, basically.
Potentially, yes. And finally, technology acceptance models are crucial. These show that adopting complex tech like this depends on several things. Perceived usefulness, does it actually help?
Yeah.
Ease of use, can people integrate it into their lives? And critically, social norms, is it culturally accepted? If it ticks those boxes, adoption is much more likely.
So usefulness, usability, and social acceptance.
Right. These theories together give us a richer lens to understand the deeply human side of becoming cyborg.
Okay, this is where it's really interesting for me. What is happening right now? What's pushing these boundaries today, especially with companies like Neuralink making such big waves?
Yeah, the present edge is moving incredibly fast, almost dizzying. Companies like Neuralink, they're rapidly shifting from animal studies to human trials, even small clinical deployments.
Already implanting in humans?
Yes. Yeah. By mid-2025, Neuralink reported multiple human implants. They stated users were already controlling devices, computers, etc., purely by thought. This isn't speculation anymore, it's happening, with tangible, albeit early, results.
And the impact of that.
It significantly accelerated the public discussion, the regulatory scramble. We're talking about commercialization, ethics, putting brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, directly into human heads. It shifted the conversation from if to how do we manage this responsibly and when.
It's not just private companies, though, is it? Military interest.
Definitely. Military research is a huge, though often quieter driver. DARPA, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, has programs like N3, which stands for Next Generation Non-Surgical Neurotechnology, plus their ongoing advanced prosthetics work.
Non-surgical, how does that work?
Aiming for high-resolution brain interfacing without needing invasive surgery. Think advanced EEG caps, maybe ultrasound, optical methods. It's cutting edge.
And the goal? Rehabilitation.
That's part of it. Rehabilitation for injured soldiers, advanced bionics, brain-controlled interfaces, BMIs, another term for BCIs, but also, crucially, exploring operational advantages for soldiers.
Like enhancing soldier.
Potentially enhancing cognitive capabilities or allowing direct, thought-based control of complex systems, drones, things like that. It's dual-purpose research.
Okay, so if this is happening now, with companies and militaries pushing hard, what about politics? Regulation? It sounds like the tech is way ahead of the rules.
It absolutely is. That's a major point of tension. The speed of tech development is just outpacing existing legal and ethical frameworks everywhere. Governments, international bodies, they're scrambling, debating neuroethics, privacy, huge human rights questions.
Like what specifically?
There's serious talks, proposals for things like neurotechnology declarations, specifically aimed at protecting what people are calling cognitive liberty.
Cognitive liberty, freedom of thought, basically.
Essentially, yes. Your fundamental freedom over your own thoughts, mental processes, your neural data, ensuring you retain autonomy over your internal mental world as tech starts interfacing with it. Urgent discussions about who owns neural data, what's real informed consent for these novel techs, how do we protect against manipulation?
It's mind-boggling stuff. And meanwhile, pop culture must be having a field day with all this. The cyborg image is everywhere.
Oh, completely. Pop culture's influence here is massive, you can't overstate it. The cyborg is this enduring, pervasive figure in movies, TV, games.
From the scary ones.
Right, the terrifying Terminator caution about AI, physical menace, to the deeply philosophical, like Ghost in the Shell exploring consciousness, identity in a networked, augmented future, plus countless superhero narratives with tech-based enhancements.
So it shapes how we think about it.
Profoundly. These stories shape public expectations, sometimes inspiring utopian visions, conquer disease, limitations, but often fueling dystopian fears tech takeover, loss of humanity. The problem is these narratives often oversimplify complex trade-offs into stark binaries, salvation versus takeover, good versus evil.
Not much room for nuance.
Exactly. They rarely get into the messy ethical dilemmas, the slow, incremental reality of development. So public perception can be quite disconnected from the science.
It's a powerful lens, though, but as you said before, many of us are already living with cyborg tech in a way. It's not just the flashy brain chips.
That's right, and it's worth reinforcing. Pacemakers keeping hearts beating, cochlear implants restoring hearing, advanced prosthetics, even AR glasses or maybe smart contact lenses soon. These are all human technology hybrids, becoming more common.
But the conversation is shifting, isn't it?
It is. While medical devices keep improving lives, the spotlight is moving more towards elective enhancements. Choosing to augment senses or cognition without a medical need, and cognitive interfaces, especially BCIs, that promise of direct thought control.
From fixing to enhancing.
Exactly. And that shift is what makes this moment so culturally, ethically, politically charged. It forces us to ask those deeper questions. Who are we? Who do we want to become? So yeah, this raises that critical question. How do we separate the reality from these, let's say, sensationalism, the genuine science from the dramatic headlines, and maybe more importantly, the real risks from the exaggerated fears?
Absolutely. There's so much noise out there, and it's easy to get swept up. Like, take the whole Matrix fear, right? This idea that, a few big companies are going to plug us all in and slave our minds to some AI overlords. How realistic is that with current tech?
Right, that's a classic example. Dramatic makes a great movie, but technically, it's pretty inaccurate for current BCI capabilities. The idea of enslaving minds to a single AI Matrix style, that's far more sci-fi than science fact right now.
Why? What are the limits?
Well, today's BCIs read limited neural signals. They're picking up patterns linked to intended movements, maybe broad cognitive states, but it takes a lot of training and context for the system to interpret those signals meaningfully. It's not like a high-bandwidth download of your consciousness.
So no mind control from outside?
Not in that sense, no. It's more about decoding specific intentions from the user's brain activity, not having a machine dictate your thoughts or upload your entire mind. It's like trying to understand a symphony by listening to just one violin. Very limited information, relatively speaking.
Okay, so it's not immediate mind reading either then. We often hear this idea that BCIs give direct, precise access to full thoughts, our inner monologue even.
That's another common myth, yeah. A significant oversimplification. The notion of direct, precise access to your full thoughts, your inner stream of consciousness. Current tech just isn't there.
Why not? What's the challenge?
Interpreting neural signals is incredibly complex and noisy. The brain is this vast, intricate network firing constantly. Current tech is just scratching the surface, detecting broad patterns, not translating exact sentences or nuanced thoughts. The signals are far more limited, far more ambiguous than headlines often suggest.
So the ethical critiques need to be grounded.
Exactly. They should be serious, absolutely. But they need to avoid sensationalism that misrepresents what's actually possible now. Research into neuroprivacy is vital, yes, but it rightly focuses on plausible future risks based on where the tech might go, not necessarily what today's devices can do. It's a crucial distinction.
Okay, so if those are the myths, what are the real controversies, the genuine ethical challenges we absolutely should be worried about as this tech advances?
There's several very serious ones that demand our attention. First and foremost, neuroprivacy and brain hacking.
Meaning?
Neural data is unbelievably sensitive. It could reveal psychological traits, emotional states, maybe predispositions to conditions, information far more intimate than anything your phone tracks.
So the risk of misuse is huge.
Huge. If this data falls into the wrong hands or gets exploited commercially, think targeted advertising based on your subconscious reactions, or even more personal manipulation. And then there's security flaws in the devices themselves.
Hacking the implant.
It's a theoretical risk, but a chilling one. Malicious manipulation. Imagine someone remotely accessing or compromising a device, affecting mood perception. That's a serious concern.
Okay, privacy and security. What else?
Second big one, regulatory and ethical readiness, or rather the lack of it. Corporate development, look at Neuralink's pace. It's just sprinting ahead of existing regulatory frameworks globally.
The rules can't keep up.
Not even close.
Yeah.
This creates these vast ethical gray zones. Worries about safety, about truly informed consent. How can consent be fully informed with such novel tech and unknown long-term effects? And critically equitable access. Will this just deepen the divide between rich and poor?
Right. The access issue again. Third,
military applications. DARPA's interest isn't just theoretical. It raises serious ethical questions about potentially weaponizing cognitive enhancement super soldiers, or using BCIs for surveillance and control of military personnel. That has massive implications for autonomy, for international security.
Not science fiction, but active research areas.
Active research. And finally, a fourth challenge, the very concept of identity and human rights. When sensory augmentations start blurring species boundaries like Harbisson argues with his antenna, it forces us to reconsider fundamental legal and social categories.
Like what?
Citizenship, disability rights, bodily integrity. What happens when a legally recognized body part is technological? Who owns it? Can it be repossessed? These are novel, profound questions with no easy answers, pushing the definition of human into new legal and philosophical territory.
These are definitely significant, complex issues, real challenges. But you also mentioned some lesser-known truths that often get lost in the hype and fear. What are those nuances we miss?
Yeah, there are crucial aspects often missing from the headlines. One big one is the difference between incremental versus radical progress.
Meaning?
While headlines scream about cognitive superpowers or instant mind reading, a lot of the practical progress, the stuff making a difference now, is incremental. Slow, steady improvements in prosthetics. Refined surgical techniques like osseointegration. More reliable but still limited neural interfaces providing gradual benefits.
The quiet progress.
Exactly. There's quieter advances, though less glamorous, often yield more immediate and widespread human benefit than the flashy, speculative stuff. They're making a tangible difference today, improving lives without grabbing global headlines. That's the backbone of real-world integration.
That's important context. What else?
Another lesser-known truth, the huge cultural variability of non-medical augmentation. How augmentation is viewed isn't universal. In some communities, visible tech becomes a badge of identity, pride, the body mod subcultures, the cyborg pride movement.
But not everywhere.
Not at all. In other places, it might be stigmatized, seen as unnatural, pathologized, or simply misunderstood based on local beliefs or values. This really shows how deeply cultural contexts shape acceptance, rejection, interpretation. It's not just about the tech, it's about the lens through which it's viewed.
Yeah.
A vastly different landscape, region by region.
Okay, so summing up, what does this all mean for the future? We've got all these smart people thinking about it, but from really different angles. It sounds like a real spectrum of opinions.
There truly is. A diverse range of voices shaping this conversation, from developers to ethicists to critics to advocates. It's not monolithic at all.
Who are the main players, the mainstream voices?
Well, among the mainstream voices, you definitely have ethicists and neuroscientists. Their emphasis firmly on precaution.
Caution first.
Right. Stressing safety. The need for long-term studies on neuroplastic effects. How does this change the brain over years? Developing really robust consent frameworks, people need to truly understand the risks. And comprehensive regulation for data protection. Many are calling for global governance frameworks, BCI ethics treaties, because this tech crosses borders.
Makes sense. Then the military side.
Defense researchers, like at DARPA, their focus is understandably on capability and safety within operational contexts. They often frame innovations as dual use.
Useful for civilian and military.
Exactly. Valuable for rehabilitation, better prosthetics for injured soldiers, and for strategic military advantage-enhancing soldier performance controlling systems. It's a pragmatic, often classified approach.
And the tech companies, Neuralink and others.
The tech entrepreneurs. Their vision is typically ambitious, often framed in almost utopian terms. They argue BCIs will first restore lost function paralysis, neurological diseases, and ultimately enable new forms of human-computer symbiosis, maybe even transcending current human limits.
Big promises.
Very big. Public roadmaps, bold milestones, aggressive timelines, often tied to investment and revenue plans. It's driven by a philosophy of rapid innovation, moving fast.
Okay, that's the mainstream view, caution from ethicists, capability from defense, transformation from tech. But you mentioned alternative viewpoints. How do they challenge or complicate this?
Absolutely. The critical analysis is vital for balance. You have feminist and posthumanist theorists building on thinkers like Donna Haraway.
And their take.
They see the cyborg figure quite differently, potentially as liberatory, capable of dissolving rigid identity boundaries, traditional gender, race categories, fostering new political coalitions beyond essentialist identities. For them, the cyborg is a symbol of possibility, a way to imagine futures where oppressive categories are transcended, more inclusivity.
Interesting. A positive spin in a way. Who else?
Then you have privacy and civil liberty scholars. They're raising loud warning flags.
About what specifically?
The commodification of neural data. Your brain activity becoming a marketable asset for corporations. Unprecedented exploitation potential. They worry about pervasive surveillance through BCI tech and profound threats to cognitive liberty, that freedom over your own thoughts. Warning against a future where even our inner world isn't private.
A much darker view.
A very cautionary one. And finally, you have transhumanist proponents.
Who believe?
They often believe augmentation is almost a moral imperative, a necessary step to overcome our biological limits, to actively guide human evolution. They envision futures where tech lets us live longer, healthier, maybe smarter lives. Biological constraints are just problems to solve.
But that has critics too.
Oh yes. Critics argue that path is incredibly risky, could lead to massive inequity, only the rich get enhanced, or even the devaluation of normal, non-augmented human life. So you see, the future is intensely debated. Strong arguments, profound implications on all sides.
Those are definitely powerful, diverse visions. Let's try to make this even more concrete. Bring it to life with specific examples. Real people, real stories pushing these boundaries.
Right, the case studies are crucial.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Kevin Warwick and his project Cyborg. We touched on him, but let's recap. 1998, the RFID chip implant simple, but it let him interact physically with his environment via tech, open doors, lights on off.
Symbolic first step.
Then 2002, the big one, surgery. Neural electrodes directly into his median nerve. This wasn't just controlling his own lights. He demonstrated remote control of a robotic hand, suggesting direct neural control of external devices. And that famous nervous system to nervous system link with his wife.
Still sounds wild.
It was. His experiments were incredibly provocative, got huge public attention, forced a reevaluation. What is a cyborg? Where are the boundaries of self? He literally embodied the question. How much tech integration changes you?
Okay, Warwick as the experimental provocateur. Then Neil Harbisson.
Harbisson, the artist activist. Again, we mentioned his implanted antenna converting colors, including UV and IR, into audible tones via bone conduction. But the key here is his framing.
It's not just fixing color blindness.
No. For him, it's an art project, a statement of identity, an expansion of human experience. He doesn't just hear colors. He perceives the world differently. He argues he's become a cyborg, maybe even trans-species.
And the passport photo.
His success in getting legal recognition for the antenna as a body part on official documents that underscores how these augmentations challenge legal and social norms. It's about expanding subjective experience, elective enhancement, not just fixing disability, a living testament to choosing to augment.
Amazing stories, pushing technological and conceptual limits. But then you brought up osseointegrated prostheses again as that quiet revolution. Tell us more there.
Yes, it's a great contrast. Less flashy maybe, but deeply impactful. Osseointegration directs skeletal attachment of prosthetics via a titanium implant in the bone. Unlike sockets, it offers this incredibly stable, integrated connection.
And the impact.
Recent clinical reviews, guidelines, they show it's becoming a really reliable option for many amputees. Significantly improves, prosthetic control movement feels more intuitive because the brain's signals transmit more directly. Dramatically enhances quality of life, more stable, comfortable, functional limb. These advances are quietly saving and improving lives daily. Real-world benefits may be overshadowed by brain chip hype, but profoundly important.
So Warwick, Harbisson, osseointegration, and then the latest headline grabber, Neuralink.
Right, Neuralink and their early human implants.
Yeah.
2024, 2025, they reported successful implants, growing trial numbers. By September 2025, they were stating about a dozen individuals had implants, using them to control digital, even physical devices with thought.
That feels like a huge step.
It is. These early clinical steps are significant catalysts. They're rapidly accelerating not just the tech, moving from lab concept to early application, but also forcing those urgent regulatory and ethical debates globally. Governments, societies are having to confront the implications of direct BCIs much faster than maybe anyone anticipated. The future is definitely arriving in the operating room. But if we connect all this, zoom out again. It's not just about the technology in a vacuum, is it? It's crucially about how different cultures perceive and integrate it. The cyborg idea isn't welcomed or understood the same way everywhere.
That's a critical point, yeah. What looks like innovation in one place might be deeply suspicious somewhere else. How do these cultural variations play out? Can you give examples?
Absolutely. Look at, say, the United States and Western Europe. You got these really strong innovation ecosystems, tons of private investment, especially from Silicon Valley, driving rapid development in neurotech, augmentation.
Just innovation.
Right. And alongside that, robust public debates about ethics, privacy, regulation playing out in media, academia. There's also this significant cultural appetite, maybe particularly in places like Silicon Valley, for enhancement narratives. The transhumanist idea of overcoming human limits through tech is not just accepted, but often celebrated.
Okay, so innovation focus, ethical debate, enhancement culture. What about somewhere like Latin America or Africa?
Often the priorities are fundamentally different there. Basic medical needs, practical prosthetics after trauma, treatments for common disabilities are paramount. Resource constraints, different healthcare systems mean the focus is often more on accessible rehabilitation tech, not speculative cognitive boosts.
Practical needs first.
Largely, yes. And cultural attitudes are heavily shaped by community values, religious contexts, sometimes very different understandings of the body, of personhood. What might be seen as acceptable medicine for restoration might be viewed differently than enhancement for non-medical reasons, which might face more moral scrutiny or just be a lower priority.
Makes sense. Different priorities, different values. What about Asia? Japan, South Korea often come up regarding robotics and tech acceptance.
Asia, especially countries like Japan and South Korea, is fascinating. There's this really high cultural engagement with robots. Cyborg imagery in media, anime, manga, sci-fi have explored human-machine interaction for decades, often in complex, sometimes positive ways.
More cultural familiarity.
Perhaps. Combined with strong industrial robotic sectors and maybe more societal comfort with tech in daily life, where automation is often seen as beneficial, social acceptance might be framed through different cultural lenses than in the West. Maybe ideas of harmonious coexistence or tech-supporting aging populations foster a more accepting environment for certain augmentations, especially those seen as contributing to social well-being.
And then just broadly, religious or traditional societies anywhere.
Views can vary incredibly widely, even within the same tradition. Some might accept augmentations framed as legitimate medical interventions, restoring God-given sight with the prosthetic eye, for instance. Others might express profound moral concern about altering God-given bodies, fearing it transgresses divine boundaries or changes human nature fundamentally.
Deeply held beliefs.
Very.
Yeah.
And local legal frameworks, often influenced by these cultural and religious views, play a huge role in shaping what's possible or restricted for people in those societies. It's truly a global spectrum of acceptance, integration, and rejection, not monolithic at all.
Okay, so wrapping our heads around all of this, where does it leave us? We've seen the incredible potential, the hope, but also the really serious pitfalls, the ethical nightmares. How do we critically analyze this, weigh the benefits and risks?
It's the crucial balancing act, isn't it? The critical analysis shows this landscape of both immense promise and significant danger. We have to hold both in view. Let's start with the clear strengths and benefits.
The positives.
The clearest, most immediate public good is medical rehabilitation. No question. Advanced prosthetics, cochlear implants, visual prostheses, BCI communication aids, they dramatically improve lives for people with disabilities. Restoring mobility, senses, communication, that's profound enhancement of quality of life, restoring agency, that's where the most tangible benefits are right now.
Hard to argue with that. What else?
Beyond just restoring function, there's the exciting potential of new sensory modalities. Augmentations, creating new senses, Harbisson hearing colors, maybe perceiving magnetic fields, who knows? It could genuinely expand human experience, creativity. Imagine new art, new music, new ways of understanding the world, literally expanding our sensorium.
Opening new doors of perception.
Exactly. And of course, from an economic angle, this field drives significant economic and technological growth. New industries, therapies, research jobs, scientific advances across neuroscience, materials science, AI. It's a powerful engine for innovation.
Okay, those benefits are compelling. Deeply hopeful, even. But let's turn to the other side, the significant weaknesses and dangers. What should keep us up at night?
The dangers are equally profound, demanding urgent attention. Top of the list for many. Privacy and security risks neurosecurity.
The brain hacking idea again?
Right. Neural data is uniquely personal. Psychological traits, emotions, predispositions, it's the ultimate intimate data. Vulnerabilities in devices, commercial exploitation, the risks of unwanted access, surveillance, even manipulation of neural processes are real. The idea of someone else accessing, let alone altering, your brain activity is deeply unsettling.
Chilling. What else?
The looming specter of inequality and coercion, we talked about this. While mostly voluntary now, could social or economic pressures make augmentation quasi-mandatory? A job requiring cognitive enhancement that could massively exacerbate divides, creating a new class system based on who could afford to be enhanced.
The haves and have-nots, biologically speaking.
Potentially. Then there's identity disruption and mental health. Altered embodiment, invasive tech. We just don't know the long-term psychological effects. Our understanding of brain adaptation, the mental health impacts of such profound changes, it's limited. We lack comprehensive longitudinal studies tracking people over decades. We don't know the full ramifications yet.
Flying blind to some extent?
To some extent, yes. And finally, maybe the most critical enabling factor for problems. Regulatory lag. Technology consistently, dramatically outpaces legal and ethical frameworks. This creates ethical gray zones everywhere, informed consent, data ownership, liability when things go wrong. It demands urgent, proactive attention from policymakers globally, not just reacting after the fact.
That's a stark picture, the potential versus the pitfalls. So, given all this complexity, what's the actionable guidance? What are experts suggesting societies do to navigate this responsibly, to steer it towards benefit for all?
The consensus, among many thoughtful experts, points towards several crucial proactive steps. Not about stopping progress, but guiding it. First, there's a strong, unified call for robust regulation and standards.
Rules of the road.
Exactly. Essential for safety, efficacy, data protection, rigorous clinical oversight, clear lines on what's allowed, who's accountable. We need that framework.
Okay, regulation first.
Second, public interdisciplinary dialogue. This cannot be a conversation just for technologists in labs or boardrooms. It must actively include ethicists, disabled communities who have crucial lived experience and perspectives, policymakers, social scientists, and the broader public. Ensure diverse views are heard, ensure developments align with genuine societal values, human flourishing.
Get everyone in the room.
Essentially, yes. Third, transparent clinical data and long-term studies. We need open access to trial data, warts and all. And we absolutely need to fund and conduct studies following people with implants over many years, decades even, to truly understand the long-term psychological and physiological effects, intended and unintended. Without that long view, we're taking huge risks.
We need the data. Makes sense. Anything else?
Finally, given this tech doesn't respect borders, international agreements, they're vital to protect cognitive liberty globally, establish common neurotechnology norms, prevent a dangerous race to the bottom on ethical standards. We need baseline human rights protections for this new frontier agreed upon internationally.
So regulation, dialogue, data, and global cooperation. Seems like a tall order, but necessary.
It is a tall order, but given the stakes, absolutely necessary.
You know, this whole deep dive into tech meeting humanity, it really leaves you with this mix, doesn't it? Wonder, awe, but also a definite sense of ethical hazard.
It's a potent combination.
We started with those vignettes, remember? Maya regaining touch with that osseointegrated hand, finding dignity, cooking again. Her friend hearing colors with his antenna, composing new music, expanding perception itself. That trial participant controlling a screen with thought, dreaming of speaking, regaining a voice.
Real people, real impacts.
Exactly. They remind us the cyborg future isn't just coming. It's here, in pockets. And it holds both immense promise and really significant challenges, it feels like. A hinge moment in human history. We're literally redefining what it means to be human, to live, to connect.
It does feel that significant.
So as we wrap up, maybe some questions for you, the listener, to ponder. Things to chew on, like, who actually owns neural data when our thoughts can directly interact with machines? Is it you? The company?
A fundamental question.
And who gets to decide if enhancements are okay? Or maybe even required in certain jobs or social roles? Think about the pressures that could create.
New forms of coercion.
How do we genuinely protect vulnerable people from being forced into this or surveilled through it as the tech gets more powerful, more pervasive?
Equity and protection are paramount.
And maybe the biggest one? Can our current systems, our democratic institutions, our collective will, can we ensure augmentation widens human flourishing and access for everyone? Or will it just deepen the divides, benefiting only a few?
The ultimate challenge.
This deep dive really invites all of us as a society to start actively writing the rules now. Not to slam the brakes on innovation, but to guide it. Consciously, with foresight, with empathy, towards a world where these enhanced capacities truly are tools for liberation, for human betterment, not instruments of exclusion or control.
We have agency in shaping that future.
We do. This is a moment where your understanding, your curiosity, your engagement with these huge questions, well, it's more important than ever before. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.